Today in our 2017 Honda HRV, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the CURT Class 1 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11416. So here's what our hitch is going to look like once we have it installed. The cross tube is going to sit just right below the bumper, and it is going to be visible, but the main thing we're going to see is that receiver tube sticking out. Our hitch is going to give us an 1¼ inch by 1¼ inch receiver tube opening, so it's going to be great for bike racks and some smaller cargo carriers. The way we're going to mount all of our accessories is the hitch pin hole here on the side, and it is going to accept a standard 1/2 inch pin and clip. And while these aren't included in the kit, you can pick them up here at eTrailer.com. Now if you do plan on doing some light duty towing, our safety chain connection points are going to be a plate style welded to the bottom of the receiver tube. And as you can see, we're not going to have too much trouble getting most size hooks on or off. As far as the weight capacity goes, our hitch is going to have a 200-pound tongue weight, which is the maximum downward pressure at the receiver tube. It's also going to have a 2,000-pound gross trailer weight rating, which is the amount it can pull, including the trailer and everything we have loaded on it. Now with those numbers in mind, you should always double check your Honda's owner's manual and never exceed the manufacturer's recommended weight. Now CURT does recommend using a safety strap when carrying any non-trailer loads, such as a bike rack or a cargo carrier. I'd like to give a few measurements, and that's going to help you whenever you're looking at accessories for your hitch. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper, it's going to be right about 3 inches. That measurement's going to come in handy when you're looking at folding accessories to make sure you have adequate clearance and that it's not going to come in contact with the rear bumper. From the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening, it's going to be right about 13 inches. At that height, I would recommend a cargo carrier or a bike rack with a raised shank. That way we get a little bit more ground clearance. So now that we've seen what our hitch looks like and gone over some of the features, let's show you how to get it installed. To begin our installation, we're going to come to the back of our HRV, and if you have a front wheel drive model and we have this underbody plastic panel here, we're going to have to trim a section out on the driver's side. I already had and went and marked out the area that we're going to need to trim, and you'll find a diagram in your instructions. Now you can either use a utility knife or some kind of cutting tool, but you just want to make sure you take your time and make as clean a cuts as you can. I'm going to be using a rotary tool. You just want to be careful, again, taking your time. We always come back and clean off all the excess plastic. If we look up into the hole we just cut, we can see the frame. We're going to have a small hole towards the back of our HRV and a larger one towards the front. The small one is going to be one of our mounting locations, and we're going to need to fish wire our hardware in place. Now we're going to have 2 carriage bolts, and you'll notice that one of them is going to be just a little bit longer. You want to make sure you put the long bolt on the driver's side and the short one on the passenger side. In order to get to the access points for our mounting locations on the passenger side, we're going to need to lower the exhaust down. At the end of the muffler here, we're going to have 2 of these rubber isolators, 1 on each side. And to help relieve those, we're going to take a little bit of spray lubricant and we're going to spray directly on the hanger. The one towards the center, you're going to want to remove the rubber isolator directly off the muffler, but leave it up top, because once we get the hitch in, we're going to have a little bit of limited space. So it'll be a little bit easier to get back on if we take it off the bottom. You just take a pry bar and we're going to pry against the rubber isolator. And we'll do the same thing for the one on the outside of the muffler. And once both of the rubber isolators are off, we can let our exhaust come down. Now you'll see that same mounting location on the passenger side here and the same large access hole. Now sometimes the hitch doesn't have enough room between the mounting location and the exhaust here, so we can either cut this or we can just take our exhaust shield and we're just going to bend it and fold it back over directly on itself. That way it's not going to be hitting the muffler, but it'll give us a little bit of room here so that the hitch can sit directly against the frame. And if you can't do it by hand, you can take a pair of pliers and bend it over. Now we can get ready to put our hardware in place. We'll start by taking our fish wire with the coiled end, going in the mounting location. And I always like to put a little bend in it. Will help guide it through the frame a little bit. And we're going to be feeding this back through the frame until we can get it to come out the large hole that's towards the front. Sometimes it'll help if you put your finger in, partially grab the wire, and help guide it down. Now it's important that we leave both ends outside of the frame. We can always put a bend in the other side. That way it doesn't fall in the frame when we lose the wire. Then we're going to take a square hold spacer block, slide it over the coiled end. And then since we're on the passenger side, we'll grab the short carriage bolt and we'll thread it onto the end of the wire. And we're going to want to feed each piece into the frame one at a time. And we're going to pull on our wire until the bolt will drop down through. Now we're going to repeat that on the other side as well. Now the next set of hands, we're going to lift our hitch up. We're going to take our pull wires and we're going to drop them down from the top of our hitch going through. We'll make sure that they come down through the hitch. We're going to remove one of our pull wires. We're going to grab a 7/16 nut. We're going to make sure to get one on each side so we don't have to worry about it falling down. Now in the center of our hitch here, we're going to have these two holes. They're going to be right below that tow hook. We're going to take our U-bolt, we're going to go around the tow hook and drop the bolts down so it comes down through those two holes. This is going to be a little bit of a tight fit just because everything's already in place. But you want the two sides to come down while it's still straddling that hook on top. And we'll take two more 7/16 flange nuts and get those in place. Then we're going to come back with an 11/16 socket and we'll tighten up all of our hardware. Then you want to make sure you come back with a torque wrench and we're going to torque all of our hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. We're going to raise our exhaust back up. If you're having a little bit of trouble getting them seated all the way, you can always put a little bit more spray lubricant on there. It'll help slide it in place a little bit easier. And this hanger, because of the limited space we have, it may be easier if you take a flat blade screwdriver and kind of pry down on that rubber isolator so we can get it to hook around the exhaust. That'll finish up your look at the CURT Class 1 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11416 on our 2017 Honda HRV.